Hi everyone, Ohayo gozaimasu. Welcome! This channel is for Japanese learners of English. Kiyomo shadowing no lesson wo yarakimashou. Listen to today's real native conversation. Focus on the rhythm and shadow along. Practice daily to master tango, bunpao, hatsuan, and rhythm. Repeat and try again tomorrow if needed. Zehi. Channel no toroku wo onegai shimasu. Okay, are you ready? Here we go.
Ever been in a conversation where someone just cuts you off mid-sentence? It's annoying, right? Today, we're diving into the world of conversational interruptions, what it means to talk over someone, and how it translates across different contexts.
Yeah, it's like you're trying to get your point across, and then bam, someone just jumps in, derailing the whole thing. It's not just about being rude, it's about not being heard.
Exactly. And there are a bunch of ways that can happen. It's not just one simple thing. It can be that someone is so eager to speak that they just can't wait. Or sometimes it says that they're just not listening.
Right. You get these people who think their input is so vital that they can't possibly wait for you to finish. It's about the lack of respect, really. Like your contribution is somehow less important.
Yeah, and that's why it's not just rude, it's disruptive. Talking over someone in English might mean using phrases like interrupt, cut off, or butt in. But how does that translate when you want to express, please don't talk over me or don't interrupt me?
Well, you could say, please don't interrupt me, which is pretty straightforward. Or if you want to be a bit more polite, you might say, could you please let me finish? Or please don't cut me off mid-sentence. There are also phrases like, let me finish my thought. Or more directly, it's my turn to speak.
Yeah, and the tone really makes a difference too, doesn't it? You can be firm without being aggressive. And sometimes it's not just about using the correct words, but also about getting their attention, like making eye contact, or maybe gently placing a hand on their arm.
True. It's about communicating that you're not done. Sometimes people just don't realize they're doing it, so a gentle reminder can work, but sometimes it needs to be a bit more direct. It also depends on the context too, right?
Absolutely. Context is everything.
Yeah.
It's not the same thing as a casual chat with a friend versus being in a business meeting. If your friend is talking over you, you might just roll your eyes and say, hey, let me finish. But in a professional setting, it needs to be much more subtle but firm.
That's right. In business, you might use a phrase like, if I could just finish this point, or I'd like to add something before we move on, or even, could I please wrap up my thought? It's all about being assertive but polite.
Yeah, and sometimes it's not about what you say, it is what you don't say, right? Like you don't want to be overly aggressive or accusatory.
Exactly. It's about maintaining a good communication style. If you start a sentence with, I'm sorry, but told, then it doesn't come across as rude. It's just consideration, doesn't it?
Definitely. And it's interesting how these phrases differ across situations and sometimes cultures. What might be acceptable in one could come across rude in another.
Yeah, that's a really good point. In some cultures, interruptions are seen as part of a lively discussion, but in others, like many Western cultures, it's considered disrespectful. So knowing your audience, so to speak, is key to getting your message across, but also not ruffling any feathers.
That's so true. And it's not just about different cultures, but also different personalities, right? There are some people who are just naturally more talkative, so understanding where they're coming from is really important.
Absolutely. And that's where the idea of putting a damper on someone's story comes in. It's different from just interrupting, is when someone is talking all excited and then someone else throws in a negative comment or just kills the vibe, you know?
Right. It's like deflating their balloon. It's not just stopping the conversation. It's actively discouraging them from wanting to share or speak at all. The energy just shifts and the whole thing feels deflated, flat.
Yeah. It is important to be aware of the difference between interrupting and changing the flow of a conversation. You can disrupt the conversation by bringing up something completely off topic or changing the subject, or you might derail the conversation. It's a way of taking the conversation in a direction away from what someone was trying to communicate.
Yeah, and it's not always intentional either, right? Sometimes people just get carried away or think they're being helpful when they are really unintentionally taking over. So what are some of the key ways we can avoid this?
Well, listening is key, really. Actively listening, which means not just waiting for your turn to speak, but actually taking in what the other person is saying.
Yeah.
And it means being aware of nonverbal cues, too.
Right. Like, you need to be mindful. Are you giving them time to finish? Are you nodding to encourage them? Or are you just waiting to jump in with your own thought?
Exactly. And also, be aware of your own talking habits. How often are you interrupting others? Being self-aware of your own conversational style is key to improving it.
So to wrap it all up, whether it's interrupting, cutting off, or talking over, all these actions can damage communication.
Absolutely. Learning to be a better listener and being aware of how you affect the flow of a conversation is what effective communication is all about.
All right, we've finished today's lesson. How did you find it? 理解できない部分はありませんでしたか? Repeat and try again tomorrow if needed. Please let me know your kansa or request in the comments. ぜひチャンネルの登録をお願いします. I look forward to seeing you all again soon. See you next time. Bye bye.